I will now call to order tonight's meeting of the Evanston Preservation Commission. We have a quorum of, now it's math time, 1, 2, 3, 4, 10 commissioners present. The City of Evanston's Preservation Ordinance empowers this body to oversee and administer the community's historic preservation program. During our monthly public meetings, we encourage public participation, afford due process through public hearings on proposed landmark designations and applications for certificates of appropriateness, and discuss ways to advance long-range planning goals beyond case review. We ask anyone who wishes to address the commission to sign in and indicate the discussion item, designation, or application to be addressed. The first order of business tonight will be public comment, typically on items listed under discussion on the meeting agenda. For old and new business, I will ask staff to read each case into the record. Once the case has been read into the record, the applicant presents an overview of the proposal, including evidence and testimony that support the applicable review standards being met. Commissioners will then ask questions of the applicant. Following the questioning period, members of the public may speak toward the application, keeping their comments to 3 minutes or less. Following public comment, the applicant will have the opportunity to respond to any evidence or testimony against the application as it relates to the review standards. The commission then closes the record and proceeds to deliberation and a motion to approve the proposal or approve with conditions. A simple majority of the quorum present is required for a motion to carry. After old and new business conclude, the commission considers the previous public meetings minutes and then discusses actions pertaining to long-range planning goals. The first item on the agenda is public comment. Are there any members of the public wishing to speak tonight that are not related to old or new business? Seeing none, were there any comments via email or whatever? Okay. All right, moving on, we have old business, but we're going to skip that. So we are on to new business. 24 Pres 0123 909 Colfax Street, Northeast Historic District. Could staff please read this into the record?
John Proctor, applicant on behalf of the homeowner, submits for a certificate of appropriateness to alter the home's rear volume ground floor fenestration, demolish an existing single-story mudroom addition, and construct a single-story mudroom and screen porch addition at the home's rear volume. Applicable standards: alteration 1 through 10 and construction 1 through 15.
Okay, the applicant can come forward and make your presentation. If you could please let us know who you are.
Sure. John Proctor.
Okay.
Owner of Endless Screens, so general contractor. So basically, the home, what we were going to end up doing is just add a deck off the back with the screened-in porch, following the same roof line as the existing building itself. And of course, it's not an historic home, but it's a historic district. So there's also some views from different photos we gave to Cade for looking into the backyard. But basically, add some examples of what would actually be put in place. But we're matching windows, matching siding, etc. Obviously, the architectural plans showing how the actual deck screened-in porch is coming off the back of the house. Okay, and those are mechanicals. There's a 3D rendering of what it'll actually look like. So the mudroom is getting extended a little bit from current, a couple feet out, and then that's the screened-in porch that we would add onto the back of the house.
Is that it?
Pretty much.
Okay. Thank you. So just for clarification, this building is considered historic because it's a contributor to a historic district. Could you please, I have a question for you, so we're going to start with questions from commissioners. Could you please address some of the standards that you think are relevant? Thank you.
Well, actually, I probably don't have the exact list of standards, Cade. Is there any specific ones we should be addressing for this one.
So Kate's going to give you the review standards.
Yeah.
Standards for construction,
Yep.
and maybe discuss the materials there.
Sure. Yeah, absolutely. Well, first with the height, we were hoping some of the photos we had sent over to kind of see, you actually can't really see into this backyard from any direction. Not from the front yard, not from the alley, not from the neighbors. There's too many trees involved. And obviously, we'd remove trees just to actually show the 3D rendering. So as far as the height goes, the height on itself, the roof peak was sitting at about 17 feet tall. You know, it's obviously the first floor is about 3 feet above ground level, and then it's a standard 8-foot high for the screen around. So basically, the width and the height is based on the width of the back of the house itself, so it's simply going to be matching directly in with it. And the roof line is a match on pitch, as I'd mentioned before. You know, basically, all the windows will be a match to the existing windows, which are aluminum-clad windows. There's currently aluminum siding on the back of the house, which would be matching as well. And as you can see, we're dragging it around the actual unit itself to make it blend in to look like it's all original. It's simply a 3-tab black asphalt roof. So we're just following the exact same roofing type in this case. So as far as proportion of openings, nothing's really changed except for the same standard door that was on the mudroom before. And because there is no exit outside of the actual deck screen area itself, there's no really openings there as well. So I guess visual would have to just take a look at, you know, other photos from kind of looking in. We try to take some different height photos from, it's a dead-end alley right here, and you're one house off the Metro tracks. But from the front side, you can't see in the backyard at all, even currently. And it's simply because the front yard slopes down to the common sidewalk in front. And there's just a lot of trees, like I'd mentioned. So obviously setbacks don't really apply here. Nothing else in the front yard. As far as materials, like I said, we're just matching what's existing on the existing house itself, which is just, it's aluminum siding. Any other questions?
Okay, so just as a reminder, we're not supposed to take trees into consideration since they're not considered permanent.
Right.
Did anyone else have any questions for the applicant?
The one, I actually went to take a look the other day.
Oh,
The
great.
one, and as you say, trees, we can't take trees into consideration, but it wasn't very easy to see what was going on because of all the trees, and of course it's summer, so there's a lot of foliage there. The one concern I have is about the relationship to the property on the west. It's a single-story mudroom, but it is raised, and as far as I can tell from the plans, it does overlook the neighbour's property. So in relation to standards 10 and 11, scale of a structure, or particularly to 10, scale of a structure.
This is, I'm sorry, this is standard for review of construction,
Yes.
10 and 10, 11.
That's
Okay.
right. In terms of number 10, can you comment on the relationship of the building to the adjacent property to the west?
Absolutely. So, if you were to take it in consideration, their current sight line, their current windows look directly in the same direction that you're talking about. As you come off the back of this building, you are going to be, 3 feet up on a fence line, which is only 6 feet high, which is standard fence, of course. So from that aspect, fully screened in ports, it's mostly sided over. There's going to be some visual, but not much visual in and out. So is it more of a privacy concern or? Sure, absolutely. So, I guess it'd be like anyone having any deck in any backyard. There's a lot of raised decks in town. As far as appearance or looks or something along those lines, it's just going to be in the style of the house. So I'm not sure if there's really a great answer there.
Thank you.
Sure.
Other questions?
I
Go
just
ahead.
have a clarifying, so it looks like there's the current second floor bump out on, and then what you're going to be doing is taking that exterior plane all the way down, right? So that you can then have the roof of the,
Correct.
The
That is
deck
correct.
meet.
Yeah.
So it's not that
we are
awkward
going to
intersection,
extend the
right?
house out. It's approximately 18 inches for the overhang. And so we would bring the back wall of the house out that 18 inches so that you can have like a straight, roof line that will match in with the building. Correct.
Was that all of your comment? Okay. Other questions for the applicant? Go ahead.
Did I notice a tree in the backyard?
Oh, you probably noticed quite a few, Charles. They have a number of signature trees that we had to make sure that we planned that we're that minimum at least 16 feet away from. We do have a tree preservation plan or protection plan in place with the city as well.
So this is the tree preservation person was contacted, showed up, and actually worked with you.
I don't know about show up, but it was submitted for this.
Okay.
Tom, if you, yeah, thank you.
So that would happen as part of the permitting process, which would be after this. So that wouldn't necessarily have happened yet.
Right, but we have submitted a plan already for that.
Other questions for the applicant?
Just super minor, but it looked like the window heights were different in the 3D rendering versus the elevations. It looks like they line up with the ridge there, and they kind of drop down. Well, it's not a major point, but I just wondered if you...
So it's a CAD level detail that we take all those exteriors in and put it into a CAD program. So it is accurate usually to the inch on the program. So it should be pretty much on. Are you talking about the upper windows?
Yeah, it
Yeah.
might be some kind of illusion, but just like the two windows that are existing, it looks like you had to like, there it looks like the flashing is just scooting underneath the sills, but in the, it's clear in that drawing
Yeah.
that the
Yeah,
sills
you
are
know what?
different
I
heights.
see what you're saying. It does look like they're a little higher here than they are in the actual drawings.
Yeah.
Good eye. Yeah, absolutely.
Just for the record, what page are we looking at here? Can somebody? The rendering. Page 30? Okay, thank you. Okay. Other questions for the applicant? Okay, thank you. Was there anyone wishing to speak on this application? Okay. In that case, we will move to deliberation. I have a question for my fellow commissioners. If standard for review of construction number 3, proportion of openings. I'm just wondering if anyone is concerned about how much of this is, how large those screen panels are versus all the like small windows in the back of the house. I don't know whether that's something that we need to be concerned about. That's how screen porches are. They need to have lots of screening. But in terms of them, their proportion is very different from everything else. Go ahead, Stuart.
Yeah, I think that it's a funny kind of comparison to make or to call for, because the windows are cutouts in a surface, whereas the porch is a series of posts with screening infilling between them. So those screen panels aren't really going to read visually as openings in a surface. So the question of their proportion relative to a double-hung window in the rest of the house, I think, really isn't, for me at least, it's not a visual issue.
So it doesn't read as it's not relevant to proportion of openings for you guys. Yeah. That's fine with me. I just wanted to, go ahead.
I just want to comment and say thank you for the extensive documentation of construction of the porch. It helped understand the whole scope of the project, so.
Yeah, I thought this 3D rendering, the windows on the second floor notwithstanding, was actually pretty helpful to understand the volumes of what was going on here, since we can't see it very well as a result of the trees. Other comments? Deliberation? All right, go ahead.
I'm willing to make a motion.
Yes, I was going to say, does anyone want to make a motion?
Okay. I make a motion to approve 24 Pres 0123 at 909 Colfax Street, applicable standards for alteration 1 through 10 and construction 1 through 15.
All right, is there a second? Second? Did you have something that you wanted to say, Stuart?
No.
Okay. I'm sorry, so we'll go back. So do we have a second? Okay, we have a second. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Abstain? Okay, motion carries. Congratulations. Moving on to the next item on the agenda, 24 Pres 0124, 829 Michigan Avenue, Lakeshore Historic District. Could staff please read this into the record?
Gianna DiMaria, applicant and architect on behalf of the homeowner, submit for a certificate of appropriateness to construct a third-story addition above the structure's existing footprint, altering the rear volume's massing and roof form, and enlarging a side dormer above the full second story to accommodate new stair access to the third-floor addition. Applicable standards, alteration 1 through 10, construction 1 through 8, and 10 through 15.
All right, thank you. Could the applicant please come forward? If you just want to introduce yourself.
Hi, my name is Gina DiMaria. I'm the architect. So should I just give like kind of how we got here and explain the project?
Yeah, if you could just go ahead and explain what you're trying to do, and our ordinance requires us to look at the standards, as you just heard.
Sure,
So
yes, and I
we're
printed them.
hoping for you to address that.
Yes, okay. So just to begin, the Lindsay and Roman, so the clients right here, they hired me to look at they want to they have an existing attic that is pretty tight as far as the footprint, usable footprint. So we looked at creating a sort of a primary suite up there. And so when we looked at it, the footprint's really small in order to get a bedroom, a bathroom, and a closet in there. So we looked at the idea of, at the rear, raising the side walls and then changing the roof line in order to have the entire footprint towards the rear be usable, as well as the existing stair right now is not to code and it's really a hazard, so it doesn't really become even a playroom for kids. So what we're proposing is to, like I said, raise up the walls of the side and then, continue the roof line. The other thing is that on the north side of the building, there is above the stair, which makes it not code compliant, is also the fact that there's this little dormer, and we're proposing to actually modify the dormer. It'll end up being new construction and raising it and making it wider, which will mimic the dormer on the south side. So as far as height is concerned, we are keeping the existing ridge line. So we're not going any higher than what's existing. We're using the exact same materials. Right now, there's vinyl siding, there is vinyl siding trim, there is asphalt shingle roof that we're gonna be mimicking. We are going to mimic the same kind of windows. They have the muttons are the 3 and 2 on each double hung window. And then at the rear, it's a little sporadic. Not every window is consistent. This house has a lot of different roof lines and a lot of different, had an addition off the north side at one point. I'm sorry, south side. So we are at the rear elevation. I think it's the next slide over. Yes. So you can see the existing is on the left, and then the proposed is on the right. So we're proposing a very large window at the rear addition at the back, and using the same windows, same shutters. So that's kind of how we came up with the volume and utilizing the space. So it's technically an addition, but we're basically building on top of the existing footprint. We're not disturbing any landscaping, any trees. So that's a good thing. And in the end, we will have a nice primary suite for the owners with a bathroom and a closet and a stair that's to code. And we hope that the front elevation from the street, especially the 2 dormers, will talk to each other a little bit better than they do now. The existing one is very tiny on that upper left-hand drawing. And the one on the south side will be the same proportion. So there's some continuity between that. We aren't removing any significant details of architectural details, where all the eave lines, the heights are going to match. So, and also the next image, I don't know if you can go to that CADE, I think it's not that. Actually the one prior to that. Sorry, that one, sorry, thanks. So we did, with our 3D program, we tried to see what we would see from the street, and it's not as visible on the street and the south side alley as it looks like in the elevations. The north neighbor is putting an addition off the back right now, and then on the south side, there's a big apartment building. So, because of the zoning, we're R5. So we have kind of a mix on that street. And also too, the homeowners have 2 children and growing their family, and the second floor has 3 bedrooms and an office, whereas being able to put the primary suite on the attic floor would be, good for their property value, good for longevity of them being able to live in the home for a long period of time.
Are you finished?
I'm finished, yeah.
Okay, great. Any questions for the applicant? Go ahead, Stuart.
Yeah, I've realized that the addition you're doing is basically in the backyard and barely visible from the street, but all of the drawings that you've made show it from the front or show the side, and we just get a peek of the way the addition's roof comes together with the existing roof. I think it's a shame that you did not draw a volumetric drawing like that, showing the thing from the back, because the roof pitches are very, very different, and I'm actually having trouble visualizing what the existing roof and that very shallow gable roof look like when they come together, and I think it might have been useful for you to make that drawing to actually see what that condition looks like.
When we first submitted, we did those axons. Do you have those? And then the committee reviewed it and then gave us this input. So when we did this, we actually had sent a video in too that kind of moved the volume around, which might be helpful. I don't know if you have access to that. Sorry to put you on the spot.
So while Kate is following up on that, were there any other questions? Go ahead.
Did you consider any other kinds of roof lines? I mean, obviously, you're trying to maximize square footage up there, and I've been there. I've had attics like this, and you're like, "What do we do with this space? We thought we could get more up there." But like, did you consider anything else, or was this it?
Well, so we did. We looked at a few different options, and so we looked at doing like a hip off the back, but then we wanted to keep the same ridge line going back. Otherwise, it would have to get higher in order to get the proper headroom, in order to maximize the footprint. Originally we thought, well, what if we just don't even touch the roof and we see what we can squeeze in here? And really, by the time we were able to, carve out, we were looking at like, probably a good maybe 8 feet by, it was 100 square feet or so that we could actually get usable space in there. And so we were looking at the cost comparative and what they actually can get out of it, property value of the home, and that's when we decided to go this route. And we did look at other ones, but we were kind of back to square one in a way, and this one maximized it in order to keep the ridge line the same.
So to keep the roof line the same would have resulted in a lot of cost and only about 100 extra square feet, is what you're saying?
Correct. And our main goal in reading, so we started off just reading the kind of these, what the best way to make this as nice as possible was we started at the ridge line and keeping that extended. And once we did that, we were sort of left with the amount of square footage and head height, and that's how we came up with extending the gable across, as opposed to, and, from an aesthetic point of view, I think that having the window and the siding is a nicer look than just having that big swath of asphalt, which is existing now. I mean, I don't know if you look at the pictures. I mean, it's subjective.
Yeah, I'm, go ahead. Oh, I thought you were, okay. Did she answer your question?
Yeah.
Okay. Kate, how are you coming along?
Working on it.
Okay. Did anyone else have any questions for the applicant?
So I can see you've done a nice job of maximizing the space. It seems like the one thing that I'm wondering, like, did you think about ways to minimize the apparent height of the back? Because it has kind of a tall cake look, right? Did you think about adding some frosting in the middle to kind of break it up a little bit?
So yes, we did. So if you look at the rear elevation, we thought about taking some banding, something that we could kind of, break up the siding, and then maybe introduce another type of siding just to kind of break up that volume. And we were trying to make it look as, there wasn't another example in any of the other elevations that had those characteristics. So we opted not to. It's certainly something that we can introduce, just breaking up the amount of siding with maybe like a skirt board or,
Because I'm looking at the front elevation, it looks like the gable on the bay has a band that runs a horizontal band that kind of divides the.
Sure.
So, and it looks like the overhang is not the usual, just a gutter, but it looks like it's got maybe like 10 inches. I don't know if it would help much, but maybe to kind of wrap it around.
Absolutely, that would be something we could do, like just to bring it around and kind of create the.
I don't know if it helps or not. It was just a thought, yeah.
Yeah, we're very open to, any kind of detailing that we can do with the siding or create a skirt board or, we were trying to not introduce something new, but certainly the bay on the south, the kind of turreted bay with the dormer above has a little bit of detail on that.
Other questions? Go ahead, Lisa.
What's the knee height wall, the height of the knee wall?
It's about 5 feet.
Okay, thanks.
Sorry, it was part of that first email that I sent. We did some axons that you could see, and then a video, actually, but we wanted to, the feedback. I didn't realize that it wasn't all part of the presentation.
This is just a super picky thing. So, you're looking at people with different backgrounds. I'm an architect. So one thing that could have helped a little bit is that, took me a minute, is on the elevations, there's no vertical line indicating the change in roof planes.
Sure.
So I was trying to, in my head, like if that is.
Hold
this-
on, I'm so sorry, but we're having some confusion here, and we're missing your
Oh, sure.
comment, if you don't mind. So you're going to try to find this document? It's okay. Okay. All right. We are working on trying to find this document.
She said to him.
So, Thomas, if you wouldn't mind just repeating your comment, because we missed it.
It's not a big deal. The elevations don't distinguish the existing roof line from the new by showing a break in plane.
Sure.
So when I was looking at it, I just saw one roof plane, and then I looked at the back, and it was a
Got it.
different shape. So it
Sure.
took me a minute.
Got
So
it. Okay. Noted, thanks.
yeah, little QC/QA there.
Yeah.
Other questions?
I just had a quick
Go ahead.
question. So the third floor, it's a bedroom? Is that like a primary bedroom? Is that what? No.
Bathroom and closet.
A
correct.
bathroom and
Yes,
closet,
yeah.
okay.
Because the existing floor plan, and we can pull it up if, as well as, there isn't much existing, that's actually walkable space.
Mm-hmm.
That's over 6'8".
Did you, and this is a completely different thing, but in my background as a homeowner, not an architect, I think not many people add a primary to the third floor, just because most people want to be on the floor with their children. So I was wondering if you thought about, in addition, going back rather than up to a third floor. I know maybe cost was that's a whole different thing, but I don't know if preserving the backyard was an issue, but then you wouldn't have had some of these concerns around roof line and creating space where, it wasn't easy to do.
Yeah, it's a good question. We didn't want to do an addition off the back because, or like an addition that we had to take up part of the rear yard. And also, the second floor is very, very choppy with the bedrooms, and there's not a really, we'd have to almost there's not a graceful way to create a primary suite. The issues of the existing stair to the attic had to be addressed regardless. So once we sort of did that, they liked the idea of, being able to see all the different roof lines of the dormers in their bedroom, so they had sort of like that aesthetic and a little reading nook and that kind of thing. So, yes, we did look at that, but it would be a really strange floor plan, and then, yeah, it made more sense. And then we could stack the bathrooms, and there's an existing waste stack that goes through, so
Yeah.
from a cost per point, it made more sense than trying to bring in another bathroom.
Okay, yeah, I see. I just, I think most homeowners don't want to have that primary on the,
Right.
third floor, just
Right.
from a functional family standpoint.
Sure.
But I understand it's
Yeah,
preference.
Right.
So is this the image that you were referencing?
Yeah, so we had, there's a few of those, and then I don't know if you could play that video? Oh, it won't, okay.
I'm just curious, and maybe you answered this when Josh asked a similar question, but it seems to me that if you had shed dormers that were in the middle of the plan, I wouldn't have this concern with this kind of tower appearance at the back. Was it a concern for getting rid of existing dormers, or what
Yeah,
was?
because the existing dormers, especially the one to the south, is really charming. It's basically a bay window that comes all the way up, and then there's a dormer on top of it. From the inside view of the bedroom, it's really a charming little nook. You really can't get in there, but it adds to the charm of the attic. So, yeah, I thought that would sort of, in my estimation, it seemed that that would be a much bigger ask to do that, and kind of a standard solution in a way. That's our thought process, but,
So I have a question, because this back addition, is this parallel to the addition, the 3-flat that's next to it? There's the porch, there's kind of a 3-story
Yes.
porch.
Yes.
That also has that large vertical element. Is
Exactly.
that kind of in
They're basically in the same
parallel?
plane, yes,
Okay.
yes.
Other questions for the applicant? Okay, thank you very much. Is there anyone wishing to speak? Sure. Do you want to just introduce yourself and make sure that you've signed in?
Okay, definitely.
Sure.
Where's the sign in?
Oh, it's supposed to be there, is it not? We'll get you a sign in if you don't see it.
Be happy to sign.
Sure.
Yeah, these are, sorry, so yeah, I don't see that either.
Okay, that's
Okay.
fine. Thank you. I'm Lindsay Nelson, one of the homeowners at 829 Michigan. The only thing I wanted to add, Gina did a really great job of kind of describing this, is what we're trying to do here is just a little bit about the why we're trying to do it. In the existing home, especially like the stairways, the reason why we're opening up that dormer is it's a little hazardous, like the headroom especially. It's very, very low. You're kind of having to duck in order to use that top floor. And so by opening up kind of that area on the side, all of a sudden it's a lot safer to traverse. I mean, it was really just about being able to use that portion of the home at all. So I think that is really about like safety and usability is what we're trying to do there. And the only other point I would make is that when we purchased the home, there's only one full bathroom in the house. And so as kind of a family of four, and I think anyone else who's buying, a multi-bedroom home, having more than one bathroom is actually pretty important for, having two kids and having myself and my husband being able to use the home long term. And so that's kind of what we're hoping to do with this addition on the very top, is add that additional bathroom that I think the home could really benefit from. So that's just a little bit about the why. My husband went to Northwestern. He's got a lot of love and affection for the area. We love the neighborhood as well. So we're really excited about this house. We're just hoping to make it a little bit safer, a little more usable for the family.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks.
Okay, so we'll go now to deliberation. Did anyone want to start? Stuart, go ahead. Want to start us off?
Yeah, no, I think the plan and the planning of the bathroom works out nicely, and I understand why, to maximize the usable space with adequate headroom for the footprint, you go all the way out to the outside walls. But then that leaves you with the sort of dilemma of the roof pitch when you connect that point with the point which is the existing ridge. So there are two things that I see as possibilities. One is what Tom mentioned, which is, Kate, can you go to the one that's a volume there? That'll certainly work. Thank you for those, by the way. I didn't see them in the package that came to me, which is why I have asked about them earlier. So one possibility is that you continue as Tom suggested, I think, continue the eave across and do shed dormers that give you the headroom that you need, which would have shifted the bathroom back a little bit because you would lose some floor area. The other possibility is, if you look at the front of the house, what you've got is a kind of echeloning situation where you have a lower gable coming forward, a higher gable, and I think for me the problematical thing is the back. Do you have a volume that shows it, volumetric shot that shows it from the back? Yeah, that one. I think the problematical thing is that, as Tom said, it reads as a tower, but it's really kind of stubby, and the pitch of the roof is so low compared to the rest of the house. I don't know whether the ridge line is at the maximum allowable or not, but it sure would be nice if you raised that ridge line and then you had a lower gable in front, another gable, and yet another gable behind that. From a construction point of view, I'm assuming that the rafter ties are going, sort of where the head of the window is, and if you had a steeper roof there, which would allow you to set a rafter ties at a third point, you pick up a little bit of ceiling height. You'd pick up, I think, a better relationship to the kind of massing and the angle, roof angles of the house by doing that. But again, I don't know whether the ridge for the house is maxed out in terms of what you're allowed or not.
I wanted to just, this is our deliberation, sorry. No, it's okay. If we have questions for you, we'll ask. I just wanted to, this sounds really loud to me. Is it all of a sudden, right? Sometimes I feel like there's a misperception that we are expecting everything to be absolutely the same for all these projects. So if we are okay with them potentially raising the roof line and not necessarily maintaining the ridge line that they have there, that would be good feedback for them. In other words, I think that there's, I mean, when I first saw it, that's my first thought too, is just have that be a little higher and have a little bit more consistency with the roof pitches. But I'd be open to, Stuart, go ahead.
I mean, in the discussion of these, one of the questions is, as commissioners, what are we really doing? What should we be doing? The standards are written to sort of suggest that we're looking for something which works with and is compatible with the house. And I think you've satisfied those requirements. If somebody were to make a motion, I would certainly vote for your project. Could it be better? I think it could be. Would the composition of the back, the volumes, and the relation to the existing house, and again, this is in my opinion as an architect, would it be better if the roof pitch was the roof pitch of the main house and came up higher? I think it would be, but we're basically an advisory body in terms of making comments like that.
Yeah, so just as a reminder, our objective here is, does it meet the standards? It's not our job to make it better, just as a reminder to everybody. No, it isn't, though. Unfortunately, it does say in the ordinance that we have to talk about the standards. Go ahead.
I think we could potentially tie this back to the standards, because if you're looking at this perspective now, I mean, is that the southern facade, right? The 3-story with no windows in it.
The three-story with the no windows.
I'm talking about the 3-story plain with no windows in it. If we break it up with some kind of banding, like Commissioner Ailman's, like you said, or somehow like it's I think the standard of solids to voids, and that we could potentially, there's this huge blank 3-story plane, and somehow either changing the roof line like Commissioner Cohen said, or somehow we could, using the standards, say that it's changing that blank plane somehow.
Yeah, I was responding specifically to what Stuart said about making it better, but if you think that you're talking about standard for review, construction number 4, rhythm of solids to voids.
Yes.
So the relationship of solids to voids in the facades of the structure shall be visually compatible with the property, structures, sites, public ways, objects, and places to which it is visually related.
I think, unless I'm misreading the drawings, I just want to clarify that I think these volumetric studies are a little simplified in terms of the pattern of fenestration compared to the elevation drawings. So
what's the equivalent in our packet here? Because
it looks like page 51. Is that what it's telling me? I can't read that far.
51. Let's look.
Sheet A2.1.
So those are the elevations.
Oh, I see. Yeah, so there are windows there. Yeah, so there's the 4 on the first floor and there's the 1 on the second floor. Okay. So now I understand. It's a simple. The other was more simple axon, and what we have in our packet is more of a
right.
Yeah. Okay.
I think it was just that was there to help us get a sense of the massing from the back. All right. Other questions about applying the standards? Thomas, did you have a standard?
Yeah, so I was,
go ahead.
you know, so this is kind of, I think what Stuart and I channel is kind of like our intuition, which is just codified. So we can, almost every time we can find a
Go for it.
rule that's behind it. So the one that I probably should have started with was the proportion of facades. So
that's review of construction number 2.
yes, right. So it becomes an extremely vertical rear facade that is very different, fairly different from most of the other facades.
So the relationship of the width to the height of the facade shall be visually compatible. So it doesn't we're not necessarily talking about it being exactly the same, just compatible. So you think that breaking it up with some trim of some sort would satisfy the proportion of facades standard?
Yeah, I think it would go a long way to helping with that.
Okay. Other thoughts about that?
I just wanted to say the other standard is standard 8 of construction, which talks about roof shapes, and that the roof shape of a structure, including, you know, roof mounted equipment, should be visually compatible with the structures to which it is visually related. So I guess this roof shape of the addition relative to the existing roof shape is that cake top reference that Tom was saying. I think that it is awkward when you look at it. It looks a little bit awkward to me.
So it doesn't look visually compatible?
It does not look visually compatible.
Does somebody want to comment?
Yeah, I agree. Actually, when Stuart first brought this up, I sort of like sighed and was like, oh my gosh, that makes a lot of sense. I hadn't thought of it that way. I thought your suggestion, Stuart, was really, really good. And I think that we do have a relevant standard to back that up. I would like to know if we've reached the height, though, because I think that plays into this, if the max height.
Yeah, it's a little bit of a unique circumstance because most of our historic districts are zoned R1. This is zoned R5, so the max height is 50 feet, I believe. Yeah.
So we have
Just do a
to-
4th floor, you're good.
Also, just remember the context of the site. I mean, this is a unique block because there's just a few remaining homes surrounded by multifamily 6 flats and 3 flats. So, I mean, yeah, it's in context with the houses, but then it's also has to be in context with 3 flats, and it's literally sharing, a lot line with the 3 flats. So I think that, if we went with Commissioner Cohen's, step roof look, it would still be less height than the 3 flat, and it would still be in context of the house. It would just kind of be this transition from single family to 3 flat.
But the proportions would feel better
Right.
if we had that roof height, I think.
I think part of the question for me is what is significant enough, what's important about this, what makes this house important architecturally? And the roof is really a prominent feature. So if we're going to talk about the roof, that I think it needs to have some basis in what makes this significant. Does that make sense? So, whatever they end up doing, it should have some compatibility with what is important. And what Stuart was suggesting with it stepping back is already, is logical with the house.
Well, I mean, the house already has a lot of different roof lines and gables
Yeah.
and everything. So, yes, I think that it just adds to that nice complexity of roof lines, but it makes it, yeah.
But we're not saying that they have to reproduce in the back what is currently there, right? We're not saying.
No,
We're not
no.
asking them. So I just want to be
Just the
clear.
same
to-
angles is what we're talking about.
Yeah,
Correct.
or the pitches,
Similar,
compatible.
yeah.
Something that's more compatible than this low slope gable that's currently there.
Because I
Is that
think
right?
the current roof line as proposed really detracts from the roof line that's already there. I think every time that I pass this house, and I do, I would see that, and I think it would detract from the roof line as existing.
Would it be possible, I'm wondering, I'm looking at the plan and I see that the water closet is 4 feet and the landing is, can I ask her a question?
Yeah, if you can ask her a question.
The dormer on the north is new, right? It's similar to the old one, but that's the new dormer so that the stair works, right?
If you're going to answer, please come. So, just because they're recording. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
that's correct.
So here's what I think. I think there's like a little, for me, speak for myself, a little tweak maybe, because you're making a new dormer, and I get that you're making it a gable dormer because it fits in. It doesn't line up exactly. It could be a little bigger, which would give you a little bit more head height on that side. For me, if you just if it were possible to tuck the addition back from the east by a couple of feet, so we would get the existing roof line, so we would see that, and it would appear more like dormer on the sides, and you would see the original roof line, that really prominent gable that kind of characterizes everything. So tie this back to the dormer on the side, by making that dormer a little bit bigger and picking up a little bit more area on the north, if you could kind of pull the addition back from the east by 18 inches or something like that, so that we get the expression of the roof, so it doesn't feel like.
So like right now where the roof is, it's sort of like it's more like a hip kind of coming back to meet that ridge. Is that what you're, like?
Well, I guess what I'm saying is two things, and I'll try to be clearer. I'm sorry. If you made the dormer that you're making, you're putting a new dormer on that's bigger on the north.
Correct.
Make that a little bit bigger.
Okay.
If that were to be a little bit bigger, then there would be a little bit more headroom on the north, right? Like it'd get wider, so there'd be more area that's covered by the dormer. And then you just kind of, if you could, if the addition didn't go all the way to the east line, so that you could express the roof that's there. So basically, it's kind of like cheating, right? Like you're just pulling the addition back just a tiny little bit. I don't know if it's 6 inches or 18 inches or a foot, but then the roof that's there could get expressed, and we see that gable, and it just feels it feels like a gable with dormers behind it. That instead, like you'd lose like a little bit of closet, but the bathroom, like it wouldn't change any of the amenities. You could just kind of like, does that make sense? Lisa? Doesn't make sense.
It makes sense to me, I think.
Okay, so the east end of the addition, right?
Can we pull that up? Yeah.
No, like so that wall, that east wall, that we're all used to north being up, so we're not saying north. The east wall in the middle, in the bathroom plan, if that wall came west by a foot, by 18 inches, then we would see the gable. The gable would get expressed.
The hip. Oh, the new gable. Got it.
We need a whiteboard.
Yeah, so like you could.
Yeah, you're talking about stepping it back a little bit so that what is currently there remains. Yeah.
Right here. That's what you're saying.
Yeah, if it just stepped back and there were, you just basically add a gable.
Yeah. Tom wants to bring the existing eave line around the back of the house. I know that means structurally you have to pick up the wall above, but I don't think that's a big deal. Now that I'm looking at the back of, the takeaway from this is there are a few things that you could do, and of course it's up to you what you come back to us with, and I assume that's kind of the sense of what I'm hearing here. I wanted to ask you about the composition of the windows on that back wall. I understand the paired windows under the gable on the third floor, I guess one of which is in the closet, one of which is in the bathroom, but as a feature to center them, to emphasize the center line of the gable, I'm just fine with that. Compositionally, that's what houses like this would have done. On the floor below, that single window, which is shifted over, is into a bedroom, but the blank wall is another bedroom, and is there a reason why that bedroom would only have windows facing,
North.
I guess to the, yeah,
North, right.
east facing north? You know, in houses of this vintage, windows tend to center under one another, or they tend to be organized symmetrically about successive center lines, and I'm just wondering at the kind of randomness of those windows now that I think about it.
Yeah, it's interesting. I don't know why that was. That was existing, but yes, there is only one window on the north.
That's existing. That's not, they're not doing anything with that.
Yeah, there's a lot of inconsistencies with the elevations too, so
just said
trying to
it's
draw
existing.
from, we're sort of taking
It's an
the best
existing
of
condition. That,
On the second floor.
yeah, yeah.
what was existing, because, you know, some windows have shutters, some don't. Some are vinyl, some are wood. or
But the expectation is compatible,
Sure.
doesn't have to be exact.
Sure.
So,
So, like what Commissioner Cohen was saying, that if we added a window on the second floor, you know, so that it would make that top addition potentially look less heavy. It would be more, you know, cohesive, you know, potentially.
I think that, I mean, that's existing. So I don't know whether we want to,
May I ask this?
Yeah.
I think also too is, you know, I know this is a process and we've been kind of going at this a while. What do next steps look like, you know?
right, so we need to, so we're going to continue with our deliberation.
Sit
This-
down?
Yeah, if nobody else has any questions for her. So we'll continue with our deliberations, and then we'll figure out whether we're going to approve it or approve it with conditions or something like that. That's the next step. And this isn't necessarily a while, maybe it's a while for you guys. But we've deliberated longer for other projects. Yeah. So anyway, Thomas, could you just go back, because I think that you were finishing with your explanation of what your thought is.
Yeah, so I think I can wrap up where I'm coming from.
Yeah.
In the interest of wrapping up, debate starts in a minute. If there could be the expression of a gable on the east, it would mean changing the window, but not necessarily getting light in there. For me, it would change the proportions of the facade so that if the roof and the roof shape, so standards 2 and 8, so it would feel less vertical if the roof at least looked like it were starting from the attic floor and pointing up. So whether or not, I don't think it needs to be, again, for me, it doesn't need to be a taller roof. What I'm doing is actually what Stuart's point was, is that flat roof doesn't really have anything to do, that lower slope roof doesn't have anything to do with the house, and it looks like it doesn't fit, standard 8. So if you just kind of if you like added on a gable on that facade, and then you have that trim board around the base, basically get the triangle of a gable at the back to kind of break it up. You can still find a way to get windows. The plan still works. They get the master suite, and it just feels like it fits the house.
But what you're suggesting doesn't change the front elevation at all, correct?
No, I'm just talking about the back.
Okay.
Yeah.
So for me, like that was a bigger concern, and what I really liked about Stuart's suggestion was to have the proportionality of the roof line be more in keeping. Just to clarify from my part.
So, Thomas, I had one clarification. So would there be then between the second and third floor some kind of molding or?
Yeah, and I don't know if it's just an AutoCAD thing or if there's intended to be a band there at the level of the attic floor on that elevation, but if that were a bit of projected roof that also made the whatever 12-12 pitch of the rest of the roof, it would really break it up. The proportions would be different, the plan's the same.
Did everyone follow what he was saying? I think that's just AutoCAD. That's a question for you. Is that just the CAD? Yes. If you want to just, there's no band. In other words, when we're looking at this, the dash lines, that's just an AutoCAD thing to show.
Right. yes.
It's actually just a continuation
Yeah,
of
that-
the
that's just
siding.
That's showing the floor lines.
Yeah, that's what we thought.
But
Just,
yeah, I mean, we could put a skirt board, we could break up that volume just by adding banding and such, yeah.
yeah, some
absolutely.
sort of trim.
Yeah. That's easy enough to do.
Lisa, did you have a comment? Or, go ahead.
She's just sketching out the potential of the different slopes of the roof. And
Yeah, 'cause
how
Tom-
it would look at the front. You know, if we have the existing, it's more of a flat slope, but then if we made it more of a steep pitch, you wouldn't see as much of the addition from the front.
Yeah, but you were talking about actually leaving the pitch more or less as it is, but turning them into dormers is effectively.
Sorry, for me, this is really at the back of the house. Like
Right.
from the front, we're not seeing it much. So I radically changing the volumes where I totally see where you're coming from. I don't think it's necessary for me because it's at the back and you're not going to really see that from the front. It's just that from the back, it just seems extremely vertical. The 412 or 312 or whatever that is just doesn't have anything to do with the house. So just give the 1212 tacked on to that back east wall so that it at least looks like, yeah.
I mean, one solution is to,
It's so do we have the, it's just because we need to make sure
I'll
that,
just explain. One thing we could do is just, we could lower the height of the windows lower the height of the windows and take that eave line and bring it across, and then you could read the triangle, and then that could be, we can almost mimic kind of a bigger version of what the front facade looks like, and that would be, we wouldn't have to change the pitch, wouldn't have to change the floor plan or anything.
I feel like I need to see a different version of this. I love all the ideas, but, I
Yeah, we're
feel like
using
we all
more-
want to see it again. There's like a couple ideas floating, which all seem like reasonable ideas, but I feel like they need to be drawn up and reviewed.
all right, in that case,
Can I?
sure, go ahead.
Can I say something just by way of clarification? Because I've been sitting here trying to imagine what Tom is suggesting, and it finally occurred to me that by bringing that roof across, setting that thing back, that the low pitch reads entirely differently. It goes back to his suggestion that you do something which is read as if it was a shed dormer to
Right.
a principal roof. We've made a lot of suggestions. I think that the way I feel is that how you do this is up to you as the designer, and that we should give you the opportunity to come back. I don't know whether all the commissioners think it's something that could be done as an administrative review with a few of the commissioners involved, or whether we want
That-
you to
that
come
was what I
back
was
and
gonna
make
ask
another
next.
presentation to the whole commission.
That's what I was going to ask next. So does anyone want to feel like you can vote on it now, or would you like to give them an opportunity to make these revisions?
Well, in the past, we've also said, administrative review with concerned commissioners having a chance to weigh in. I'm always going to be concerned about a month is nothing for us, but it's a lot for these folks. So if we could help them by meeting out of these chambers to help them move along, I would.
All right, then how does, if you wouldn't mind, how does an administrative review sound? Would you all feel comfortable voting on it, but with administrative review?
I
Would you?
would like to see it. I personally wouldn't want to do administrative review because there were so many ideas. I'm not sure what it's going to look like. I really don't know. They were all different roof heights, pushing it back, so many things across. I can't say that I really have a sense for what the final product is going to look like anymore.
Okay.
If it wasn't, I'm sorry, Charles. I was going to say, if it was an administrative review, you should be one of the people
That's true.
involved in
Yeah,
it.
I could.
What doing that does is it means we're not delaying you by a whole nother month and then looking at it and saying, oh, maybe you should have done this. It's really a way to expedite giving you an approval for the work that you want to do.
Charles, did you have something to say? Go ahead.
Only that I agree that there are a number of people who also not only have the interest and concern about this, also have the knowledge to pursue it, which I don't think that I do, because these guys are great architects. I think that they could be helpful, and But I think this time of the year is also a time you don't want to delay getting into construction.
Yeah.
So I think that, I think it's met most of the standards, and we're talking about something that's more aesthetic, but
Well, Thomas, you feel that there needs to be another, some slight tweaks in order to meet the standard number 8 roof shape, right?
Yeah, and I don't think it's wholesale change at
That's
all.
fine. So what we would need in that case is a, where we would say we approve it with the condition that they work with some of our commissioners to address standard for review of construction number 8 roof shape. Did you also want to do scale the structure number 10? For the verticality?
For me, it's the roof shape and the proportion of facades.
All right, go ahead.
And if I can just make a comment, I have just another topic to bring up before we
Sure.
go to motions and whatnot.
You can go ahead and have a seat.
Yeah, just, it's a new observation that I made, apart from the roof lines, is that the relationship of materials. I'm looking at the review of construction number 7. I noticed that shutters, that we have the opportunity to not add inproportionate shutters, inappropriately sized shutters for the given windows on the addition. And I would suggest that we don't continue that trend, and that there's shutters on the front elevation but not on the side elevation. And so I think that we also, so we could continue the non-shuttered elevations around to the back and remove them.
So they,
Detail, but they're not real shutters. They're just an aesthetic piece of wood.
so this might fall, into the category of people sometimes assuming that that's what we want, and just putting it on there. But also on the rear facade, currently there is one window with shutters.
And there's 2 without.
So I'm neutral on that.
Yeah, I am too. I personally hate shutters that look like they're decorative things that have been stuck on and look like if you were to close them, they wouldn't cover the window. But it's your house, and I think that should be your
I mean,
aesthetic
unless you
call.
think it's going to impact the review standards.
Not heavily at all. It's just an opportunity not to add shutters to the addition part.
Okay.
Because the other elevations do not. So continuity of materials could be a standard that we could cite. But again, it's kind of a pet peeve. So I'll admit
right.
to that.
So you guys have heard that, and you can take it under advisement.
Yeah.
Okay. Does anyone else have any comments before we move to go ahead.
I think we need some clarification of what we're requesting moving forward, because there were so many different, suggestions. I think we need to give some clarification of what it was that we're moving forward.
Yeah, just as a counterpoint, I would say that it'd be more appropriate probably just to cite the standards that are concerning.
Right, okay.
They've had a lot of testimony that can help guide them in meeting those standards, and then it's up to them to propose what they choose to do.
So the standard for sure that we're going to cite in is review of construction number 8, roof shapes. Were there any other standards that you guys, did you want to?
Well, just the ones that I'm just going
proportion-
to read off what I noted during our discussion, and if people say yes or no, they can say yes or no.
Sure.
I've noted 2, 7, and 8 is what people have cited. I mean, I don't know what people
So
agree
the
to.
2 would be proportion of facades. So that had to do with the verticality. So we could have that addressed via administrative review. 2, 7, you said? Oh, that was the materials.
I'm
And
sorry,
8.
yeah, 7, is that alteration, not construction?
Wait, 7,
Oh, yes.
no,
it's
7 is
construction,
surface
7,
window.
relationship of materials.
yeah. So I'm neutral on that one, but 2 and 8 were the ones that review of construction 2 and 8 were the ones that we talked about. So, does anyone want to, Thomas, you want to take a shot at this one?
So I move that we approve here. Yep. 24 Pres 0124 829 Michigan Ave Lakeshore Historic District, with the conditions that conditions 2 and 8 be reviewed and addressed.
Review
and
for construction.
Review for construction 2 and 8 for administrative review, and any commissioners that would like to take a look at it can.
Okay.
I just have a clarifying question. How does administrative review work? Like, and I've never done it, so I know it's Kate and some commissioners. Is it a unanimous thing or like majority? Like, if not everyone agrees, I mean, people don't always agree. I'm wondering how that passes administrative.
The baseline would be a majority, but I've never had it not be
It's unanimous usually?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, it's a conversation.
Yeah.
So the applicants come in and just
I
have a
see.
chat with the commissioners that have volunteered. It's typically the people who have spoken up, so Thomas and Stewart.
Yeah, in many cases, Kate has just circulated the revised drawings. We've all commented on it and then just agreed, and Kate's gone ahead and issued the approval.
Which
Does-
theoretically we wouldn't do if this were a more significant situation. But to your point, because this happened on my block and Kate and I had a conversation about it, we don't have anybody here speaking, against this, But there was a case very recently where there was a lot of frustration with a build, and because they're my neighbors and they talked to me, they said there felt like there was a transparency issue where, issues were addressed in administrative review, and they weren't privy to what the ultimate outcome was, but we're very interested in that ultimate outcome. So I think we might want to have a longer-term conversation about transparency and what these sort of like sidebar reviews might look like.
Well, I think
So
especially if
we're in the
it's
middle of a
contentious.
motion right now,
Yeah.
actually, so if we've clarified what administrative review is for
Can I
everybody.
second the motion?
Yes, go
Hey,
ahead.
sorry, for clarification, I know it's usually unanimous, but I'm just wondering for the record, like, is it majority? Because you're not always going to have people agree all the time. I'm just wanted to clarify, like, we're all on the record, how that works. Is it have to be unanimous or majority?
There's not any, there's no like hard and fast rules for this. I mean, technically, if you're kicking it back for administrative review, I'm the one that's making the decision. That's not how it's worked in the past, because it's been a collective decision.
Well, that's interesting. So
really what is,
So we're not making the decision.
well, you're the ones that are saying.
That kind of makes me wonder, like, for me, then I would want to see it come back to the committee then, personally. Not that, just because, I thought administrative review was, we were truly as commissioners reviewing it, but it sounds like.
Well, you're not letting me finish what I was
Okay,
trying to
go
say.
ahead.
So I'm saying the technical rule, there are commission reviews, administrative reviews. So when you are saying you're deferring something to me, I am technically the person that is signing off on that. Now, how this has happened in practice is that we convene up to 3 commissioners who find standards problematic. They're saying, I would not vote for this unless these things are addressed. We've done it in a couple different ways. Actually, more frequently was that we would sit down together with them, the applicant, the architect, and he would review what they're proposing. Does it address the concerns you had or not? We would say, yes, it does, and then you'd sign off on it. Now, I've never had it where we've sat down in the room and 2 of the 3 are saying, yeah, it does, and one person says, no, it doesn't. But I think if that did happen, it would either be an opportunity for them to try to come to some kind of mutual agreeable solution, or I would probably just say that there's, 2 out of the 3 said that it was addressed, and that's a democratic thing to do to move forward.
But you ultimately, you said you make the decision, like you would make the tie break or whatever if there was a split.
No, I'm just saying the way that's in the ordinance, because you asked if there's rules for this, is that if you're saying it's an administrative review, I am technically the person that's making that decision,
see.
and I'm signing off on that. You are like a consulting party.
I see.
I mean, the nice thing about the process is that they could send a revised drawing to Cade in 2 days. The commissioners who agreed to look at it could look at it and say, terrific, meets the standards, or gee, it doesn't, please look at it some more, and they could send another drawing 2 or 3 days later as a revision.
Right.
So that you're not saying, okay, we'll see you in a month.
Yeah, I understand the benefits of it. I actually agree with you from a timing standpoint. My concern, though, is, and maybe we need to look at the, I don't know, the ordinance or how it's written. I really think administrative review, if commissioners are reviewing, commissioners should be making decisions, or at least the majority of the group there. Like,
Well, so-
I don't like that it.
So we're voting, we're approving it.
Sorry,
to-
Kate, go.
Well, the
You can talk to
administrative
mic. What did you
review, in
say?
theory, could be all the commissioners sitting here. We're just not waiting a month to review it. We're
I know, Kate, you had
we're
something to say,
reviewing it
though.
online,
I'm just saying
commenting, or getting together.
that's what I just said,
in a-
was that it
around
is a
conference
majority
table.
decision.
But you just said you make the ultimate decision if it's a split.
I did not say
Oh.
that. I'm saying this is probably a conversation I think we should take offline if we want to take
I just want to clarify, though, if it's not unanimous,
I don't
Then
know that
you-
this has anything to do, if maybe we take a straw poll on who wants it to be administrative and who isn't comfortable, maybe you're uncomfortable with that.
well, I was not uncomfortable
But I'm not sure
until
why
you had
we're-
said that tie break is made by you, not commissioners. But that's, I mean.
I'm happy to have a conversation with you about this.
I think the straw poll is a good thing at this point, because this might be a moot point.
Well, so we're in the middle of a motion. I've allowed this conversation to go forward because I do think that everyone should understand what they are voting on. So do you understand what you are voting on?
I understand, I think.
Okay.
I mean, I
'Cause
have
that's
some
the most
issues with
important
how
thing.
that ordinance
Right.
is and how it's decided in administrative review, but I'd love to talk about that at a further meeting with the
Yes,
group.
and I do think that Josh brought up some stuff that we need to talk about too, but we are in the middle of a motion right now, so as long as everybody is clear on what you are voting on, we should continue with that. So we are approving, so the motion was to approve it, except with the condition that they come to talk to a couple of commissioners and kind of tweak the project a little bit, and we're not going to have them wait a month.
And the only thing I would say is, like, talk to Cade, who will convene a few commissioners. Just
Talk to
process-wise,
Cade.
yes.
Right.
Because he's in charge of administrative review.
Right, but your motion, you said that it was going to be in consult with
Yes, yes. I'm
commissioners.
just
Right.
clarifying, you said come back to us.
Sure.
And they go back to Cade. Yeah.
Correct, thank you. All right. So that has been seconded, so we're going to do a vote now. All in favor, aye?
Aye.
All opposed? One, two. Abstain? Okay, motion carries. All right, thank you very much. Next
Sarah,
item.
just as a point of clarification, on several occasions where I wanted to abstain from voting, I was told that I couldn't.
Who abstained?
You asked for against, and abstain. I
Yes.
thought that wasn't a choice.
No, you can abstain.
You can always abstain, you just have to explain.
You guys are good. You
your
can go
reason
home.
why.
No, I'm sorry. Did I miss somebody?
Yeah,
Did
thank you for
somebody
putting up
abstain?
with us.
Oh,
It's just Stuart's making a point.
oh, okay. I thought I had missed something. Okay.
Yeah, I know what you're talking about.
Sure.
Stuart. That did happen. Absolutely. You did. You were.
So, so what he's saying is if you're going to abstain, you need to explain why. I think let's take a 5-minute break and then we'll reconvene in 5 minutes. That's 8:25. Okay, we are back from our break. We're going to get started. Our staff liaison will be here shortly. Stuart, if you wanted to just go ahead and. So the next item on the agenda is approval of the meeting minutes, minutes of July 16th, 2024. Were there any comments that anyone had who was here and wanted to?
No edits, but I just want to applaud Cade for summarizing our extensive conversation for the Engage Evanston comprehensive plan discussion.
Yeah, that was good effort. Other questions or comments about the minutes? Okay, we will continue then to discussion. No vote will be taken. The first item on the agenda is Associate Membership Program and Corps of Volunteers. We do not have to talk about this for a long time. This is something that I proposed back in March, and it took system a little while to make it here. And so you all have the memo, and we can talk about it in as much or as little detail as you want right now. The idea is to kind of create an opportunity for people to be engaged if they aren't necessarily 100% qualified to be on the commission, but they want to have something to do with us. So there's an associate membership option. And then to keep people who have been on the commission and their term ended and they still are great. I mean, some of you who are newer, I mean, we have had some amazing people on this commission. It would be great to have a way for them to continue to be engaged. And then there is a thing that I kind of thought up about, so like a fellow of the commission that would be for people who have won awards. So I don't know, reading back over it months later, now it seems maybe a little complicated with all the requirements of how long you have to be there and everything. So, you know, all of that stuff is open to debate, and we don't have to make any decisions tonight. I just wanted to give you guys an opportunity to comment on this idea that's been floating around my head for a little while, and that finally kind of made its way into our agenda for the September meeting. And you will not hurt my feelings if you say you don't like it. I mean, it's just something that I'm tossing out to you guys. Go ahead.
I think it's a nice idea. Do you have specific notions of how people who wanted to continue their involvement with the commission beyond the mandated term, what those people would do? I mean, would they help with administrative reviews? Would they help with pre-reviews? Would they, what was your thought?
So you're talking about the emeritus level? Yeah, so I am open to them doing whatever it is that they want to do. If they want to participate in administrative reviews or pre-review, or if they want to just be available, if they happen to have some particular specialization that we need, like we've had a commissioner in the past who specialized in certain materials or whatever. If we have something coming up, we know we can invite them to come in and speak, that kind of thing. You know, to me, if you serve 6 years on this commission, you've earned the opportunity to then, after that is done, to say, you know, I don't want to do this, but I want to do that. So that was my sense of it.
Yeah. Rather than a discussion tonight, could you share with all of us your full proposal?
This is all that I have right
Oh.
now, what's
Oh,
in the
okay.
memo, because I made it sort of very general to start back in March because I didn't know what legal was going to say about it, but then they said that it was actually possible to do it. So then Kate and I talked about it, and I said, you know what, let's just pop it into a memo.
Are there any legal requirements with respect to the city? I mean, I know to sit on this commission, we all need to be approved and to, you know, sign stuff that says we
Our
don't have
ordinance
conflicts
allows
of
for
interest and
associate
stuff.
members, if I'm correct, right?
Yeah, the ordinance allows for associate members. There's no real legal requirements other than they're not allowed to sit here with you and they're not allowed to vote.
So, I mean, what happened earlier tonight, even though we didn't take this direction, was, you know, Stuart recommended something. I hadn't thought of it. No one else had mentioned it. And, you know, we had a conversation about it. So maybe even just something as simple as, you know, sometimes having extra voices as part of administrative review is nice for staff. I mean, it could be something as simple as like, here are the administrative things. You're on a part of an advisory board. We'd love to hear your suggestions. And that would give, you know, Cade the option to engage with those or not. But like, it's just adding to the brain power behind it. It also provides buy-in from the community because more people are a part of it. It's not something that truly has to be managed by Cade, you know, in some sort of significant time issue. It could just be something as simple as advisory opinions on administrative review items.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, you know, the emeritus status could be whatever they feel their best contribution is. You know, they could also, as emeritus, not participate in any of the review. If they've had enough review, they could do some of the long-term planning stuff. They could help with, you know, surveying or organizing meetings for partners, or somebody could take over the speaker series and come up with, I mean, there's lots of things that people could do, but we need to sort of create that sort of structure for them to exist. I felt also that the associate member, even though our ordinance says that we can have it, we've never, in my experience, actually used it. And we have had people, suggest that they be on the commission who they're not quite qualified, but they're excited. And it just seems a shame to turn them away. So that was actually the thing. But I wanted to say one other item that I forgot to mention at the beginning of this little intro, is that the idea is actually to take some of the burden away from Cade, not to add to it. It's to give him give him and us like an opportunity to get stuff done, but it's not us doing that stuff necessarily. We would presumably need somebody to manage the volunteers and the fellows and the emerita, but hopefully it wouldn't be as much work as they do for us. Like the net would be positive. That's the idea. What did you guys think about the fellow of the commission, where the award winners have a spot?
I think it's a nice way to continue and involving them in after honoring them with an award, it's just a nice way to include them in the conversation.
My only thought with that, I really like the idea of inviting them to become part of the speaker series. And I think that you will be, because the awards program is casting a broader net now on, how to define participation in the awards program is great, because then our topics and our expertise will be even greater. But I didn't know if it needed to have the title or if it was, I don't know, I guess I have mixed feelings. Like, on one hand, I can see it because it's like a nice way to encapsulate it and name it, instead of just the open-ended question where, here's the invitation, it's always here, rather than so I don't know, I like what it's doing, but I just don't know if it needs
The fellow kind of thing.
Right.
Yeah, because I don't want it to be too complicated, and I feared. Okay, Charles, go ahead.
I think a group of people that would really be great to contact and to put together and have this discussion would be a bunch of past members and interested people from the community that have an interest in it, and see what gels within them and what they think about it. Because I think there's also a lot of people who just don't understand at all the historic preservation element of the community. So that'd be a great thing to do. I'd love to hear a bunch of people that serve on the body respond to questions.
Yeah,
Yeah.
maybe to include this, not to move into the next, item, but to include this in a newsletter. People who are interested enough to read the newsletter would be the kinds of people who might be part of this, including past members.
So that's exactly what I was just going to say. So we have ESPN right now. No, maybe we could do, I don't know, some sort of like small Google survey. You click on it and you give your feedback on this in the newsletter. Does that sound like something you guys you would support in the newsletter for
Yeah,
the
absolutely.
commission? Some kind of little we're thinking about creating this volunteer core structure. What do you guys think about this? And then see what we get. Okay, all right. Well, that's no problem. Did anyone, I guess, if anyone else has any thoughts, you can just email me and copy Cade, please, as this conversation and the memo kind of filters into your brain. We'll see what we get from the community over the next month or two, and then we'll go from there. And then, does anyone else have anything to say, or we can move on to the next item on the agenda? Charles?
What's the
The next item is the September newsletter call for content. Okay, did you want to say anything more about the associate member thing? No. Okay. The September newsletter call for content, the first couple newsletters were relatively easy. We were all excited. Now the hard work begins of maintaining this schedule of quarterly newsletters. So if anyone wants to give us some stuff for it, that would be great.
I don't have this information, but is there anything about like haunted houses or anything going into fall? Are there any good stories about
I was
Evanston
not expecting you to
houses?
say that. I took a sip of water.
I'd read it.
Yeah. Yeah. You got something you want to write about it?
I wish I did. No, I don't have any stories to share, but I would read them.
Thomas, were you going to say something about the newsletter?
No.
Okay. Did you have anything that you wanted to say about the newsletter?
I don't know that I have anything specific, but if we're going to have this volunteer piece that we just talked about, Beth's going to write about a haunted house.
I'll find one somewhere.
I mean, John.
It's actually great. I think it's a great idea. John has his recurring.
Is he going to provide? So, John isn't currently appointed, but he is going to provide some material for the newsletter. Thomas, were you going to say something?
One thing I'm curious about, and this could be fodder for the newsletter, is I met with Alder Newsma about the deconstruction ordinance, and I didn't get the sense that this is racing through city council. But I'm curious if you know more, because that's something that I think people would be interested in. I mean, I kind of just said, hey, Kate said, is anybody interested in this? And I am. I don't know if there's been any movement that maybe an article would help provide some momentum.
I don't know anything more than you do, probably.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, but we can remind folks that our very first speaker was on deconstruction. Our whole.
Yeah, that's a good idea. Just to maybe prompt the.
I mean, because some of you weren't even commissioners at that time.
I'm not,
fantastic.
to be super clear, I am not volunteering to write anything, but it's an excuse for me to reach out to Jonathan again and see if there's any movement
that'd
that maybe
be
just
great.
like a little blurb
Yeah.
about.
No, that's smart. And then the other one that I thought of was, which was in the email to all of you, but we did receive 12 nominations, and maybe even just listing who the nominees were for the award categories, and that can be followed up with who the winners are.
Yeah, unfortunately, it doesn't quite.
It doesn't quite align, but I think it would be nice to maybe
But we need to
just say
stay
who was nominated.
stay on schedule. Okay. Any other thoughts, comments? If anyone wants to provide, doesn't have to be a huge long newsletter either. Go ahead.
It's not on the agenda. Are we done with the news, talking about the?
I think so. Yes.
Okay, I just want to congratulate our fellow commissioner, Stuart Cohen and Julie Hacker, on their new book.
Oh.
And I encourage
That's
you
got to
all-
be in the newsletter.
Oh, yes. Yes, that'll be in the newsletter. Yes. Yes. Well done. Would you like to write that?
Yeah. Julie was a commissioner for 6 years, so Kate, I'd be happy to send you something.
Yeah, that would be great. Well, that would be fantastic. That's great.
Yeah.
Congratulations.
As long as you're doing books, Design Evanston is working on its 3rd publication now, and it's on Evanston's double houses. It's called Hidden in Plain Sight, Evanston's Double Houses, and it's a discussion of the double houses both as a typology that's easily integrated into neighborhoods of single-family houses, and then the strategies that were used to try and make these things invisible. So if you ever notice, there's a variety of double houses that has a continuous porch across the front, and the entrances to those individual houses are in the corner but at the back of the porch. So unless you're looking for it, you would never know it. And it seems interesting because it had in part to do with not so much with zoning, but sort of contemporary feeling that Evanston didn't, Southeast Evanston didn't want development that involved two flats or apartment buildings. So this, there are double houses in other cities, obviously, but the extent to which some of the double houses in Evanston go to camouflage the fact that they're double houses and look like their adjacent neighbors is kind of what the book's about. So late fall. And
All right.
It's my, Jack Weiss, who's a former commissioner, is involved, Chris Hartzell from the History Center, and myself.
Sounds like the newsletter's packed now.
Okay, all right. Oh, I'm sorry.
I don't know if this is appropriate or not, but I think that the house, the Ernest Mayo house on the corner of Crane and Asbury is for sale. Has anyone noticed that? If you haven't been in that house, it might be a good opportunity to try to get in that house. That is I think that's probably Mayo's best house.
But there's no open houses, right? It's just.
Well, it's for sale, so it's an opportunity to maybe call and, anyway, it's an opportunity, if you haven't been in there.
Cade, do you want to make a call and see if you can set up a house tour for the commissioners?
Okay. I think that it is time to adjourn this meeting. It is 8:45 p.m. Thank you, everyone.